And welcome to Our Time. Matt Tarrant is one of the most sought-after entertainers in Australia and across the globe. He's been called Australia's best and most popular magician, and his awards and sold-out tours speak for themselves. And he's our guest this week on Our Time. Hello, Matt.
Malcolm, this has been a long time coming.
It has. We've been talking about you coming on the show for so long. I can't believe it.
I'm glad I'm finally in this seat.
I'm very glad too. My first question is the most important question. What's magic to you?
Well, that's a very big question.
Is that a good lead?
That's a very good question. I mean, magic for me is my life now, I guess. Mm-hmm. And growing up, it was the thing that inspired me to be, I think, the person that I am today as well a little bit. So growing up, I was kind of that shy, nervous kid. Going into the workplace, I was the exact same. And then discovering that I could do magic tricks and that I could learn magic tricks has opened up this completely new world for me. And I think this new personality as well, or at least it's allowed my actual personality to come out a bit more. Absolutely.
Right. And how did it start? Did you feel magic? Did you feel magic come upon you? Did you get it out of a book? Did somebody inspire you?
I was working at a bank in a call centre, which isn't particularly inspiring.
In a call centre, right.
And one night I went out to the Fringe and I saw this magician performing on the streets, and his name was Prakash, and he was doing street magic, and I watched this guy and it was really great. And I had a chat to him after the show and then went to work on the Monday. And then there is Prakash sitting at the computer working on the desk. And I'm like, do you work here, mate? And it turns out he worked in the same office, same place, same shift that I worked. And I said I'd love to learn some stuff. And he taught me the very bare basics. We ended up doing a couple of very bad shows together. But he taught me the most important thing of how to learn how to become a magician. And that's sort of where it went from there.
Is that why you've been so encouraging to so many people over the years? Do you think?
It's partly the reason.
Is it giving back sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an element I got given that from him, but it was also throughout my journey, I've had a lot of magicians that have done that for me, but also a lot of magicians that haven't. And I saw probably more from the negative side, and I went, I don't want young magicians or young performers of any kind to experience that same feeling. So I want to make sure that if someone comes to me, I can be like, I can help, I'm happy to help, here is how.
Well, you have in fact helped so many people, but if we go back to the very beginning, did you ever feel that magic was real, and is it real? Because people often say to me, but there is something more, isn't there? There's something. They're tapping into something.
Yeah, so I saw a magician also at the Adelaide Fringe when it was 1998, so I was 11 years old. His name's Rudy Kobe, and Rudy is this crazy American Las Vegas magician. And I remember he had a TV special at the time, and I got to see this guy then live on stage, and he was such good fun. And he does some just really cool, fun magic tricks, and that felt like magic to me. In fact, so much so that I didn't realise I could learn what he was doing. I just assumed he was a wizard. And then it wasn't until much later, obviously, I learned I could learn what he was doing.
Do you think half the audience see you as that?
I think, maybe.
Well, particularly with mentalism, because you think, there's no way he could know that or do that. There's no way.
I am pretty honest in my dishonesty, and I will happily say that there is obviously magic behind the magic. There are some things that still look like magic to me, despite even knowing how they work. But there has definitely been times where I've had people after the show come to me and be like, you're a psychic, you actually have powers, you need to be doing things outside of tents and fringes. And I've had to be very truthful to say, I'm not. It's a card trick. There's a secret to it. And people still, sometimes they don't buy into it. They truly believe that I have some sort of power.
Well, we want to believe in magic. I mean, at the end of the day, we actually do. You know, falling in love is magic. So there's magic.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
That is true, yeah. And I mean, I definitely am open to the idea of showing, hey, there is magic in the world. And I'm finding more and more as my career progresses, I'm doing a bit more narrative magic that has a bit more of a story to it, a bit more of a meaning behind it. Yep. I mean, not too much. I still rock up on stage in baggy jeans and a t-shirt, but there's definitely a message behind some of the things that I do. And I think for me, that's probably where the magic comes into my shows now. So
where do you feel it's going for you? Where do you feel, is there more to learn?
I think there's always more to learn. I think if I stop learning, then I'll be in some serious strife. I've always wanted to push myself.
But you have won, I think, the most awards in the Adelaide Fringe of anybody in any genre. within the performing arts.
Yeah.
To the point that you now give an award under your name.
Yeah.
Which is pretty special. How did that come about?
Yeah, so Heather Kroll, the CEO of The Fringe, she came to see my show one night, and this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'd won a few awards at that time.
When did it start? In 2010?
2012 was my first Fringe and my first award.
Right.
And I think I've won an award every year apart from 1 or 2 since then.
Right.
And we also won the Pick of the Fringe, which is the award for like the overall best act of the Adelaide Fringe,
yeah.
which is very lovely. I don't think it's true, but it's very lovely.
You know, these things have got to be judged, though, on public response. And if people walk out just thinking that was an experience that I will always remember, I mean, every live performer, that's what you wish for, I guess.
Correct, yeah. I mean, that's what I want from my show. Like, people, a lot of magicians come to my show and they might be like, I know how that trick works, or I know how he's doing that. And I think sometimes they're a bit surprised by the fact that I've got a big audience, or people leave being like, wow. But one of the things they quite often find is when they hear the audience leaving, they first of all are impressed by the magic, they're impressed by the show, but they actually genuinely like me as well, which is something we find very important as my character.
But that's the secret.
We need the audience to like me. Like you could get away with not being a nice person, and that works for some characters, but I want it to look like
for what you're doing, though, you're right.
Yeah,
they do like you, and they can't work out why you can do this and I can't work it out.
Yeah, correct.
And there's an impish quality about what you do, which is great.
And that's what we love. So we try to bring that into all of our shows. So I never want people to come into my show and think they're sitting back and watching this like grand illusionist who is bigger and better than the audience. For me, I'm on the same level as my audience. I'm up on a stage, so obviously you can all see me, but it is like a friend who can do some cool tricks showing them stuff. Yeah,
well, that's an interesting point, though. I know you like doing close-up magic because that really is where the magician's skill really shows. Mm-hmm. The box illusions are one thing, but the skill of fast close-up and stuff. So how have you compensated for people sitting way back there, but really they need to be right there, like we are at the moment?
Well, my first Fringe show was just close-up magic. We went to a pub and we would just do tricks for people that didn't even know we were rocking up. So, you know, that's how we got that beginning. And then to somehow still do that in front of 1,000 people now it's a difficult thing. Obviously, technology, got cameras, got big screens, that helps. But we still want to make sure the audience feel connected to what we're doing and they're not just watching something they could watch on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
So we're just very particular with the
Actually,
things that we do.
that's interesting because it's a bit of a combination of both then, isn't it? It's sort of like you are, but you're really there.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And but we want the audience to go away and go, oh, I couldn't have seen that just by Googling his name or by going on YouTube. It has to be a bit of a combination of both. So we find interesting ways to do
nothing like being in the room. That really is the art, isn't it? It's being in the room, breathing the same air.
It is, yeah. But if you're sitting back and thinking you're just watching a movie as well, that's, you know...
Well, also, so many people are just watching this on the phone, so you're not getting the whole picture.
Hopefully not in the show. Sometimes every now and then, and you're like, what are you doing? This is very good stuff.
I know, crazy.
It happens.
Can you make the phone disappear, maybe?
Sometimes.
Is that a new illusion that you should be working?
Maybe we should add
if I catch you with your phone, gone.
I've considered it before. There's been a few people where I've been like, I just want to talk to you and understand what you are doing because this is great. But that happens. When you're doing big shows, you're always going to have a couple of people.
Make it disappear and collect it at the door.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it.
Now, there's a new thing to work on. So, Matt, just talking about the beginning again, when you first started, how old were you when you did the first, when you can go back to say, this is the first time I tried something out in the shed at home with a local audience or whatever? Because most people have got one of those stories.
Yeah, like it would have been when I was 19. So that's really old for a magician.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, so 19. So I didn't have that magic kit as a kid. And I remember the kind of first moment I went up to this party at Murray Bridge, and it was in this little community hall, and everyone kind of went outside, and I was there, this big circle of people, and I just went, do you guys want to, can I show you something? And I'd been working on this really crappy little magic trick that fooled the living daylights out of them. And then I had this other one where I had a shoelace which I was able to tie just by shaking my foot. And it just blew these people away. And I just, at that moment, felt like the popular kid at a party. And I still have never felt that again, but I never felt that at the time before that. And it kind of went, maybe there's something to this, so let's learn some more stuff.
At 19. So when did you do your first, when people paid to come and see your show?
So we did a few in, 2010. So I would have been working that back a few years after that, maybe.
Well, that's interesting because you went from obviously that then to the Fringe 2 years later. That's a major jump.
It was a big jump, yeah. So, I mean, my first show was actually a very dodgy Adelaide Fringe show that turned out was quite illegal.
Okay, almost isn't everyone's.
Yeah, I mean, it was with my good friend Prakash at the time, who'd set up this show in the Garden of Unearthly Delights. So we did this great specular show on the grass there for free. We got donations to go to the Women's and Children's Hospital, and it went for about 40 minutes, and we had a big crowd. But it turns out that hadn't been booked, and we weren't meant to be doing what we were doing.
Oh, okay.
So we were performing for free in front of all these other venues in the garden.
Who have paid to be there.
Very unhappy because they weren't selling tickets for that hour because there's these two magicians doing a free show.
Yep.
And so the lovely organisers of the garden did come up to us and ask who the heck we were, and we did get escorted out that night.
And escorted in very shortly after. We're going to talk a lot more to Matt in just a moment, so join us then. We're just taking a short break. We'll be back in a tick. Welcome back. Our special guest is magician, mentalist, an all-round good guy, extraordinaire. Who are you again?
I'm Matt Tarrant.
I like that. I'm Matt Tarrant. When you put a show together, Matt, is there sort of a format that you work on? Does this trick lead to the next trick? Are you reading the audience as to what they like the most as the show progresses and you change things around? How does it work?
Yeah, so when we first begin, normally it's me and a crew. We'll get to my house or my studio and we'll put together a whole bunch of post-it notes to work out tricks, maybe ideas, themes, and eventually from that, either there'll be a trick that we really want to add or a theme we really want to talk to, and the rest of it kind of falls into that.
Right.
Then we perform that, after putting it together, we practice and perform that the first night. And normally, after the first night, we destroy that show and never do it ever again because it was terrible. And we've learnt what the audience wants pretty quickly, and we change it to that. So quite often, if you see the opening night and the last night, or even the opening night and the second night, completely different. You know, we've done shows that they never bomb. I've never had a show that's gone, that was awful, but we've definitely done shows where we go, that wasn't right, that didn't fit. Maybe that trick isn't right for this show, it needs to be moved to a show in the future.
Well, audiences, I guess, don't understand that you're reading them as they're watching you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I also, quite often, I find it hard to do a show and know exactly how long it's going to take. I always go over on my first night, or sometimes really weirdly under. And you kind of go, how long was that?
You mean you don't have a clock on the side going?
I should have. Every time I get in trouble because I always go over or under, and I should have a clock. But I don't know. I don't think it would help me.
Well, funnily enough, we just recently had a young magician, Aidan, who we've been talking about. And I noticed in the wings he had a clock because he was inclined to go over too, which was just interesting. Young magician starting off, someone had obviously pushed him in the right direction. Did you have, apart from the guy you talked about, did you have others along the way who sort of said, hey, you've got what it takes, I'm happy to work with you, or give you advice or tricks or knowledge?
Yeah, and it was through the internet that I found that actually.
Oh, really?
So there wasn't really anyone local. I found when I went to the local clubs, I didn't necessarily get what I wanted from that experience.
Right.
But then I went online, and through like forums, there were a few kind of cool magic forums that were coming up at that time. And I was one of the first members on them, talking to people. And I just fortunately got connected to this girl. Her name was Katie Eggleston, she's this beautiful dancer in Vegas. And she ended up marrying a guy called Chris Kenner. And Chris Kenner is David Copperfield's executive producer. So
Helpful.
Worked out quite well. So I was friends with Katie, I was friends then with Chris. So they would send me things. And then when Chris and David were in town for not the Adelaide Fringe, for an Adelaide show, I had the first 2 rows to me and my friends and family all for free. Every night I would spend hanging out with Chris and the team, doing tricks. They would show me things. And I remember the first night, he said to me, Matt, do you have magician friends to bring? So there was maybe 15 of us that went to the movies together and then hung out afterwards. And then the next night he said, Matt, come again tomorrow. Just you though. Like, let's not worry about these others. Which, I mean, probably when you really say that again out loud, having an older man invite me to his hotel room every night for a week is a bit strange. But it was none of that. It was a really beautiful moment, and I learnt a lot from him.
I think as you get older, and you'll probably find this yourself, because I know that's the way you think, you feel it's not duty bound, but you feel it's a necessary part of life to hand over some knowledge to people that get it.
Yeah.
And then you're delighted to see where they go after that. Have you experienced that already?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I love to teach and help young performers, and that's like a big thing of my career. And when I see them do their own shows, it's the best sense of relief and happiness for me. I prefer that more than seeing my own show succeed. I remember there's a young guy, Matt Tarrant is his name. He's a great close-up magician, great stage magician. And he did a show at the Fringe a few years ago, and his first night just did not go very well. It was a bit of a disaster. And he was very frustrated, his family were very frustrated, and I just said, look, Matt, we can fix this. My show also needed work. We'd just done our first night, and I'm like, we can put mine on hold, let's focus on you. Here's what you need to do. We spent the next day just absolutely nutting out a new show for him, making it easier. And that second night, his dad, who I think had doubts about me for a while because I was doing all of this for free, and was like, what's he getting out of it?
Why?
He came up to me, gave me the biggest hug, and he was just like, thank you so much. And that for me is a moment that, I can never pay for that. And that's why I like to do it.
I understand that completely. And you've helped a lot. You run sort of a not-for-profit agency as well, don't you?
Yeah, so it's called Mindblown, which is basically a not-for-profit talent agency. So we have young performers and also established performers that get basically bookings through there, and they get 100% of the cut. I don't take a cent. It's
very admirable because everybody sort of needs a helping hand to go to the next level. So what's your next level? Is technology involved? That seems to be something that's happening in the magic world a bit.
I think online shows and stuff are a big thing. I still love the idea of doing live stage shows.
Yeah, but during COVID, a lot of people were doing the online stuff, but it's not the same as being there. It never is the same as being there.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some very good online shows though. And for me, during COVID, I didn't go that way. I decided against it. Just because for me, it's not just doing your show that you normally do on stage on the internet. That doesn't work. It doesn't translate. You have to do a show specific to that audience and that medium. And the people that were able to manage that properly have done some incredible things. I've seen shows better than real life shows on the internet because of that. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah, but I suppose the issue there is people can always think, is there a bit of camera magic involved in that?
People think that at my shows anyway. The amount of times
how can that happen if you're there and they're seeing it happen?
I don't ask me. I've had emails before of people saying, I know how that works. It's all been pre-filmed. The camera guy is in on it when he's filming. He's not actually filming. He's doing all these weird things, and it never makes sense. They just think that's how it works. So there's always going to be doubters. There's always going to be people that think they know how it works. Sometimes they're right. More often than not, they're very wrong.
Yes. It's interesting, isn't it? I suppose we've become so used to using technology that it's the first question I ask, what is magic? What are you magic? Is it real? Because sometimes it just feels that it is. And we want it to be because we want to go into that imaginary world. Do you feel while you're doing it, are you so calculated doing it because you've practiced it so much, just your muscle memory will make it happen, that you sort of lose that joy?
No, because I don't practice. And that is
is that called the show?
It is legitimately a weird secret of mine that I very rarely practice. Like a lot of magicians do, they spend 7-8 hours a day. I will obviously practice tricks leading up to a festival season.
Well, your close-up would have to be...
There is definitely practice at that point, but we're not talking much.
But is it because you talk?
It's because I talk.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. It's because of that, but also for me, if I don't feel like I could mess something up, I feel like I wouldn't be as invested in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go up on stage going, I actually don't know how this is going to turn out, it means that I focus more on making sure it does work, and generally it produces a better product and a better magic trick. So a lot of the stuff we will do, sometimes we do tricks for the very first time up on stage. That's happened numerous times. And knock on wood so far, yet to...
Does the adrenaline make it work for you though?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Me up on stage is a completely different person than me backstage. Like
Yes, you are.
you see me backstage, and I'll be coughing. I will be getting nervous. I'll be anxious. It looks like I'm about to have a breakdown. Welcome to the stage, Matt Tarrant. Boom, I'm back up. Bang, the energy of the crowd. I'm on straight away.
So at the end of the day, you're an actor.
Yeah, basically. I think most performers are. But
Well,
absolutely. There's definitely a me on stage and a normal me.
So
Normal me is very different.
You're acting magic.
Yeah, I'm acting right now. You know, this, like, for me, I think young magicians, and I'm including myself in this still, though maybe I'm not that young anymore. We definitely are like a bit, nervous people. We're maybe a little bit anxious.
I think all performers are.
Yeah.
The moment you lose that, you've lost it all.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're not real anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to be as real as I possibly can, but knowing that my favourite thing to do after a show is to do nothing. Get a cup of tea, have some biscuits, and watch some trash TV at home. That's what I do.
I absolutely understand that, because you actually have to do that to unwind at the end of the night. Otherwise, you can't get to sleep because your head's still buzz.
Just buzzes the whole time.
It takes a while for the adrenaline, I think, to get out of your system is the issue.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. We're going to come back in a minute because I'm really keen to talk to you about what you're working on now, because I know stuff's coming up. So we'll join you after this short break. The magic man himself, Matt Tarrant, has been our special guest in this episode. We're just about to find out what he's doing next. Is that a hard question to ask a magician? Because generally you're not working 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
What do you do in the meantime?
I take a bit of time off as well. I'm very lucky that I can do that. Yeah. So normally my first half of the year is touring, and again, my next, the start of next year is the same thing again. So I'll do the Perth Fringe, followed by the Adelaide Fringe, and then maybe a few other festivals around that point as well. But I don't know what's next. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, to be honest, let alone what I'm doing over the next 3 months. Things come up, they pop up. I find it very hard to say no to things. So I can be doing anything, any time of the year, which is kind of exciting as well.
Actually, I think that's the key to success, knowing how to say yes. I know that sounds crazy, but I say this to everybody. When you're starting off in the business, so often people, should I do this or shouldn't I do this? Like, for heaven's sakes, work is work. Say yes.
Say yes. There does come a point where you do have to learn to say no as well,
sure.
though.
Well, that's when you got too much of saying yes in the first place.
Yeah, correct. And I've kind of now modelled that pretty well, I think. But every now and then. But I just like to do fun things. I just, a couple of years ago, I decided what I want to do in my life is be happy and have fun. So I'm going to say yes to things that make me happy and have fun with. Any other thing, I probably won't do. So there's corporate shows that have come to me and they want me to do things, and I go, I don't get a good vibe with this. I'm going to say no. I've done dumb TV things. I was on Survivor a few years ago, and I did that because it sounded fun. See, that reaction is why it's fun.
Yes,
it's
I
cool.
remember. Yes, I think I bumped into you at the Royal Show here in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Just after you'd done it.
I would have been a lot skinnier back then.
Yes. Why did you do it?
A bit more tan.
I've forgotten about that.
Because it was fun. It was a fun thing to do, and it's something I wanted to do as a kid. I always wanted to be on like those sorts of reality shows.
Right.
Survivor, Amazing Race. It came up, and I thought, let's give it a go. And
what did it teach you?
Oh, what did it teach me? I mean, it taught me that I'm stronger-willed than I thought I probably was. I think physically I was stronger than I thought I was as well.
Right, interesting.
And it also taught me a lot of things about myself that I didn't love as well. Like, that I think I needed to be more confident in things, and also less confident in things. So it was a great learning experience.
How far did you get with it?
51 days. So that was 5th place. So
51 days.
51 days.
Were you living off reasonable food? Or
I lost 15 kilos.
Yes.
Yeah. So 15 kilos, came back with a severe case of depression and anxiety and self-doubt, and then I had to be on a TV show spread across the world. And you still get messages to this day of like,
amazing.
I don't like you. And you're like, well, sorry.
Get over it and move on.
Exactly.
Matt, we purposely haven't asked you to do any magic on the show because you need to see this guy live. So next year, check out the Adelaide Fringe. Really worthwhile seeing. I've seen some of Matt's shows, just fantastic. Thank you so much for being a guest on this episode, Matt, and good luck with the future and great success for the next Fringe.
My pleasure, mate. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. And until next time on OurTime, keep yourself nice till then. Thanks for being part of this program. We'll see you soon. Bye.